Hey guys, it's Kimmy. I hope you're staying warm and well wherever you are. I am back in Korea, back at work. This is the last day of desk warming before my students and all of my teachers and people at the school come back to work, so it's pretty quiet. I figured I'd do a video for you. This video is going to be about my experience teaching alongside Korean co-teachers from the EPIC program. So I am an EPIC teacher, as you know. I'm just going to talk about all the good, the bad, and just give you some more information about what it's been like for me as a native English teacher in the EPIC program, teaching in public schools alongside Korean co-teachers. First off, before I came to Korea, I thought that I was only going to have one main co-teacher, and that would be all, that I would be working alongside only one Korean co-teacher. If you didn't know, Korean co-teachers basically are the counterparts, your team member who you're supposed to be working with in your classrooms to teach English to the students. And I thought I was only going to have one of them before coming over here. And then as soon as I got here, I met more than one. So I was mistaken, and I actually have one Korean main co-teacher who picked me up the first day I got here from the immigration office. And she brought me to my apartment, and she is my main handler, which means that she takes care of everything that is work related or anything outside of work with me, as in my apartment, my living situation. Anything that requires paperwork, it is her job to take care of it for me. So she's the main one that I go to in case I have any problems or any concerns. She's the first person that I'm supposed to reach out to. So I do have one Korean main co-teacher, and then I also have 4 other Korean co-teachers. So I teach in a middle school and a high school. I have 4 co-teachers total, including my main co-teacher in the middle school, and then I have one Korean co-teacher that I teach with in the high school. So altogether, I have 5 Korean co-teachers. There is always one Korean co-teacher in the classroom with me, and we are supposed to lead the class together and teach together, and that is the ideal situation, or what the purpose of co-teaching is supposed to be, so that the students get the maximum benefit from both teachers, both the native English teacher and their Korean teacher. Now, I have to say that that hasn't always been the case. Out of all of my classes, I typically lead the class, which means that the Korean co-teacher basically kind of hands it off to me, and I lead the class with whatever lesson that I planned for that class. Now, they don't ever really require me to do anything in particular unless there's testing that's coming up, but usually I have the freedom to create whatever lessons I want. If I want to use their textbook from that, I can, or they give me the freedom just to lead the class as I choose to. Now, if I just go through each of my co-teachers, my main co-teacher is probably the one that is the most active with me in the classroom. It was difficult teaching with her, especially in the beginning, because she would interrupt me a lot, and I didn't know when to stop speaking or when to wait for her to finish speaking. A lot of times right after I gave the English instructions, or when I'm explaining something in English to my students, she would immediately interrupt and translate it and explain it to them in Korean, which seems like it would be helpful to the students, but because they know that they're going to get that explanation or instruction from her in their own language, in Korean, I feel like sometimes it makes it useless for me as an English teacher to try to explain it to them in English when they're just going to wait for their Korean translation anyway. So that was something that is challenging with my one particular Korean co-teacher, the main one that I had very few classes with, but it was just hard trying to find, trying to be in sync with her as we were teaching classes together. And then for the other co-teachers that I have in the middle school, most of them really do not speak during classes unless they need to clear up something for students who are maybe confused or maybe misunderstood or don't understand what I'm explaining in English. Usually they're there, they help me pass out papers, and they answer students' questions, and they kind of help discipline the class as a whole. But overall, I am the main one standing, talking, teaching, and they're just kind of there for support. I have 5 co-teachers, and I want to say maybe 2 of them don't really take an active role in the classroom at all. they basically treat the period that I teach with them as a free period for them. So they just go and kind of chill out in the back and don't really do anything to help me lead the class, which can be very annoying. And that is a very realistic thing that you could be dealing with if you come to teach in Korea and you have a co-teacher. And yeah, I could confront them and talk to them about it, but the way I see it is that I just don't want to create any tension or friction with my coworkers. So I just kind of deal with it, and if I absolutely need them, then I let them know. But it does suck when the other teacher is not holding their weight and providing any kind of assistance or help with the students and teaching with me in the classroom. So occasionally they'll come to me and ask for assistance, but it's very rare that they ever really bother me. I sit right next to my main co-teacher and we communicate when we have to communicate. Other than that, everyone's just kind of at their desk in their zone doing their own thing. Now let's talk about how my relationship with them is outside of work. I've been here for over 10 months and we've had I think maybe about 3 or 4 outings together with just the co-teachers, like the English co-teachers. So usually it's just the middle school co-teachers. I haven't really spent too much time with my high school co-teacher. But the middle school teachers will all go out for lunch and dinner sometimes. And I think I can count exactly how many times we've been out together. It's been maybe like 3 or 4 times this entire year that I've had lunch and dinner with just them. And usually it's pretty nice because it's rare that I get all of them at the same time. I'm usually teaching with them at different times and I see them at different times. So outside of work, hanging out is very rare. I don't think I've hung out with any of them outside of work except for one. And the one that I usually hang out with, or that I have hung out with outside of work, is the one that I've taught with the most. I teach over 6 classes with her over the last semester, and her family actually lives in Sinchuan, where I'm working and living. Most of my other co-teachers, they live in other cities outside of this rural town, so usually on the weekends they immediately take that opportunity to go to Seoul or go to Chuncheon or Wejingbu, the surrounding bigger metropolitan areas where they might be from. So I don't really see them a lot outside of work, but most of the time I feel that my co-teachers do understand what I'm trying to say to them, so English isn't a problem. I know that may not be the case for every English teacher that comes to Korea. Sometimes you get stuck with a teacher that may not have great English, and that would suck horribly. But luckily for me, their English is pretty good, and we don't have too many misunderstandings or anything, but sometimes I might have to elaborate on something that I'm trying to get across to get them to get the full gist of what I'm talking about. But yeah, overall I would say that sometimes it is annoying to have to co-teach or have a co-teacher in the room, but overall I am glad that I would rather have them than not have them, because they are a support and kind of like a backup if I need them there. And it's nice to have different people to ask questions. So sometimes it's hard because I don't want to bother one teacher with all of my questions. So I kind of sprinkle my questions out to different people and ask different people, because I often feel, especially with my main co-teacher, sometimes I feel like I'm stressing her out or putting too much more responsibility on her, and I don't want to bother her, so then I end up going to someone else or another co-teacher to ask a question, or if I need help with something that is work related or not work related, I just kind of delegate my questions to different people depending on who I think would be the most helpful to me. There have been times when I ask questions and I don't get a straight answer, or I don't even get an answer. So I would advise that if you come to Korea and you start working with Korean co-teachers, that continue to ask your questions and be clever about how you ask them, and make sure that you get an answer, but don't be so pushy, or just be sensitive, because the Korean work culture is different than the American or wherever you may be from work culture. I know it's different than when I was working in corporate. So sometimes being assertive and being aggressive, it comes off as being too much or disrespectful or just kind of insensitive to how they may feel. And I've tried to tippy toe around that sometimes with certain issues, whether that be taking a day off of work or calling in sick. There's a way to speak and try to be diplomatic about how you bring certain things up with your co-teachers. So that being said, it's been an interesting time working with co-teachers in the classroom, as well as just working in a different work environment in a different culture, in a different country, and having Korean co-teachers can definitely be an advantage. But you know, just like anywhere else you work, there's gonna be times when you don't like everything that they do, or you may have personality clashes with your coworkers. So that can happen anywhere, and I can't predict what it's gonna be like for different people. I know it's different for me, it's different for my friends that work here, and it's different from public school and private school. I'm not even sure if private academies have co-teachers, but I just wanted to give you guys honest, look at what it may be like. That's what it's been like for me as an EPIC teacher working in South Korea. So your situation could be better, it could be worse, but just be positive. If you're coming to Korea and you meet your co-teachers and they're not exactly what you want them to be patient and just try to remember that even if it sucks, just leave work at work and try not to take things too personally. And if you become best friends with your co-teachers, that will be great, and you'll create great memories, and you'll look back and this will be all a great experience no matter what happens. You know, if you can overcome it, if it's bad, or if it's good all the way through, then awesome. But yeah, so that's pretty much it. If you have any questions, please comment leave your questions below for me. I hope this video is helpful to anybody who is looking into teaching abroad in South Korea. And if anybody teaches anywhere else that has co-teachers or another native teacher in the room, I would definitely like to hear your experiences as an English teacher. And I think that's it. So if this video was helpful, thumbs up, please subscribe, and I will see you in my next video, guys. Bye.